Chapter 1. Being back in Erie was strange. Everything was different, yet at the same time it seemed like nothing had changed at all. The former magic room was now Holly's bedroom, but the floorboards still creaked in the familiar way they used to. Herbs, spices, and other potion ingredients still filled the cupboards in the kitchen, but she could tell that the stove hadn't been used for a vanquishing potion in a while, certainly not as often as they used to cook them up. Prior to Holly's arrival, Kathy and Josh had been the only two living in the house. They both had very busy lives. Hunting down evil no longer fit in with their schedules. Unpacking didn't take as long as Kathy thought it would. She seemed to think that Holly would need all day to settle in, as if she needed to reacquaint herself with the house she used to spend most of her time at. Holly wasn't so sure. For a long time, this house had been a second home. Whether she was currently a guest or a roommate was still to be determined. She hadn't decided yet if her stay was permanent. Only time would tell. All she wanted to do was to find a new hiding place like the one she had had in Lilydale, but part of her knew that that wasn't a perfect solution. Right now she needed to focus on what she'd returned for. The chaos. Kathy had said she thought she'd seen it in New York City, which meant that it was out and it was active. It also meant that somebody had released it, which begged the question, who let it out? A better question was, what the hell was it? From the warnings she, Kathy, and Josh had received, the chaos was some big magical force. Based on the fear in each warner's eyes, the witches assumed it wasn't good. It needed to be stopped, that much was certain. With a name like Chaos, Holly could already imagine what it would bring. She consulted the magic book, but apparently none of the Harpers' ancestors had ever come into contact with anything like it. There was absolutely nothing in the book, so her research was short-lived. The Harper house made Holly think about Drew. He died shortly after she had first met Josh and Chris. She had also lost her daughter in Erie. The city was only filled with bad memories. Holly wondered why she'd ever agreed to come back. She let her mind wander as she thought of Drew, what he would be doing now, whether they would have ended up together instead of her and Chris, or whether another demonic force would have killed him because of his connections with so many magical people. Back in Salem, Drew used to tell her about his parents' library filled with books on magic, tomes specializing in potions, creatures, fighting tactics, magic history, powers, herbs. She wondered if he or his parents had ever heard of the chaos. Maybe he would have been of help if he were still alive. No. He'd been gone for 10 years. She needed to stop thinking that he would ever come back. There had once been a point in her life that she didn't think of Drew daily, back when she and Chris had been together, and her daughter had been alive. When things had made sense. When she had been happy. Holly splashed cold water on her face in the bathroom. She needed to focus. Hypothesizing about life with Drew was not helping her now. But Drew could still be useful. If she summoned his spirit, he may have some leads that she'd be able to track down. The sooner she and the Harpers solved the chaos problem, which Zambal was likely involved with in some way, the sooner Holly could move someplace else and put her past behind her. When the magic room had been turned into a guest room, its contents had been spread throughout the house in various hiding places. The spare candles were now mostly stored in the attic. The various trinkets, knives, and other magical objects had been moved to the basement. The few books, including field notes and journals and other magical history books, were hidden among books on the various bookshelves throughout the house. Holly tracked down the necessary instruments and set up her makeshift altar in the living room. She hesitated before lighting the candles. The Harpers hadn't been actively seeking out evil since the accident. Kathy and Josh both had their own lives and were busy being normal people. What would they think about her suddenly bringing magic back into their world without their consent? Even though Drew's spirit wouldn't be an immediate threat, she knew that sudden spikes in magical activity would alert anyone who was watching them. Her quest to find a solution to the chaos could result in attracting other magical folk to the house. She had made that mistake before. She couldn't risk it. That would only put Kathy and Josh in danger, and if she was being honest, that sudden danger would force Holly to stay longer than she wanted. She needed to get out of Erie as soon as she could. There were too many memories here.